Welcome back again to another episode of the Contrarians. We have various concepts going with this thing. We've got the Dark Horse panels. If you join our Patreon situation, we've got our regular one where someone has a contrarian choice for an album. That was our original show concept. But we've been doing these build a bad album things. They're always a lot of fun. We love these bands. This is just a way to poke some light fun at some of these bands we love so much. I've even called AC/DC my favorite band of all time. Sometimes I include Blue Oyster Cult, Thin Lizzy, ZZ Top, Black Sabbath. I mean, there's a bunch of bands. We all love bands, right, Tim? So essentially, yeah, we're going to be talking about AC/DC this week. Tim and I earlier had done, you can go check it out on YouTube. We had earlier done AC/DC Bon Scott era. We had so much fun doing that. We figured we'd tackle the Brian Johnson era of AC/DC. So the concept here is basically we build a bad album by this band. 5 tracks on side 1, 5 tracks on side 2, like an old school piece of vinyl. What did we have, Tim? We had for this one well, we're gonna call this episode Back in Beige, but we also had we had Fly on the Tape. I'm not sure. I'm losing my notes here. Anyways,
I had back in Black.
Yeah, Back in Black. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had commented that Marco will be able to do some good graphics for Back in Beige. So let's hope he's done some good graphics. I guess we'll see what he comes up with for this. But yeah.
Honestly,
so without
Back in Beige probably wouldn't look much different than For Those About to Rock. But anyway,
exactly, exactly. It would look dead on like that. So okay. Without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Tim. And yeah, you've seen Tim on a lot of these episodes, and he's been part of our panels as well. And actually, you're the whole 8-track book is gone now, right? There's are you thinking of doing anything with that again? I've been curious.
well, currently I've got a sale on the PDF versions of Unspooled, and there's also a contest linked into that, so people can go to my YouTube channel and watch my 400th episode. It's all about my 400th episode, and I explain everything about it. But basically, $5 US gets you a high-res PDF of Unspooled Adventure in 8 tracks, my 8-track book that Martin contributed the forward to, and it also enters you into a contest. All details on Tim's Vinyl Confessions on YouTube. If you just go to timsvinylconfessions.com, it also takes you to my YouTube page.
Excellent. Beauty. All right. So tell us about your side 1 of this Back in Beige album.
Okay, well, let's get the negative comments going right away, right away, because I'm going to pick something off Back in Black.
Ooh, here we go.
Yeah. I'm picking Giving the Dog a Bone. Because this, to me, kind of sums up right with Brian Johnson's first album. And by the way, I've not interviewed him. I know you have. He seems like a really, really nice guy, really down to earth, really humble. But his lyrics sometimes tip the scale into just rude and a little bit over the line. Mm-hmm. And this is one of them, Giving the Dog a Bone. Ha ha. I don't think it's aged that well. Musically, there's really nothing wrong with it, but I just wanted to pick on that lyrical tack. This is really the only one where I'm saying anything much about the lyrics, because, comparing Bon Scott's lyrics to Brian Johnson's lyrics is apples and oranges. Bon Scott's lyrics were dirty and nasty, but there was a wink and a smile and a playfulness to it. But sometimes with Brian, even though he's probably like that in real life, it comes off as dead serious. And sometimes it doesn't always work. And this is one of the examples. Now, I'm not going to pick on, one of the biggest selling albums in the world any further, just that one song. My next one, this is probably also, I'm also going to get some heck for this, but that's what we do. Mistress for Christmas. A joke is one thing, and they've got songs that are humorous and you like them as songs. This one, I don't think there's much of a song here. As you say, barely written. There's potential. You think it's really going to kick in at a certain point. It never really does. It's always like stuck in the starting gate kind of thing. So musically, I don't think there's much to the song. I actually think, believe it or not, this album is a tad overrated. I know it was a big comeback album for them. After just some albums that just went gold or barely went platinum. This one, what, sold 3-4 million copies over the years. And I think there's some great tracks on it. I don't think it's good all the way through, which leads me to my next one. And this is really going to raise some eyebrows. Money Talks, the most successful pop single they ever had, number 23 in Billboard. It was the most on the pop chart, not on the rock chart. This was a big, big song for them. I have never cared much for the song. It's always been just too poppy, too sing-songy. There's parts about it I kind of like. It's got a little bit of detuning in it, which is kind of odd for them. But I've just never really been on board with Money Talks. I know that's going to get some people talking. Next one is an album. I think that, you've called this your least favorite AC/DC album. I think I might agree, Rock or Bust. Sadly, the last one with Malcolm while he was still alive. This is just not a great album at all. And I'm going to pick Rock the Blues Away. I mean, it's like, pick most of the songs on here. They're just not that great. Rock the Blues Away sounds like one of those throwaway boogie tunes, or boogie, I don't know either. Depends on the day of the week, that they would have done with Bond. And it just, to me, it just kind of falls flat. And on an album that's pretty flat to begin with, it doesn't, I'm glad to say that the last album, Power Up, I got nothing from that album. I don't think you do either. It's pretty good. I'm glad Rock or Bust didn't go on to be the last one. And finally, another album that I don't think was that great all the way through, from Stiff Upper Lip, Hold Me Back. First of all, it's a borrowed riff that Angus borrowed from himself. It's a da 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 da. It sounds like Sink the Pink, but it's a double time, not double time, but it's got the duts and like the snare drum on every, and there's not much of a chorus. To me, it's just it's a throwaway. It's a throwaway that they put on the album, and sometimes they would do that. So that's my 5.
Excellent. Okay, I'll just give some quick comments here. So, Giving the Dog a Bone, the worst thing about it is a given, right? The Given. It's like,
yeah.
What are you talking about, right? But yeah, I wouldn't have put it on here. I think there's just way too many more. And the riff I think is pretty lethal on that. Mistress for Christmas, I totally agree. It's very uninspired. I love the way you describe how it just doesn't get going. And yeah, that thing that I've said about a lot of songs barely written, that's literally in my notes as well, right? So I totally agree with that. And the title's pretty funny, but it's not as good as Ted Nugent Intensities, is it right? And Rock the Blues Away, more on that album in a bit. I totally agree there. Money Talks is a funny one. I totally know what you mean. That vocal melody can be pretty irritating sounding, but a couple of things about it win me over. One is this up on the top shelf sort of interesting, tight, energetic rhythm that it has with those very precise Chris Slade sort of drums. And I am sort of won over by the excitement of the album doing rather well out there. And is it overrated? I would probably notch back a little on what you said there, because I think it is such an improvement over Blow Up Your Video. And I really do like sort of the tight, urgent production of the thing. So something about Money Talks has just slowly won me over. And again, back to the Given, I just hate how it's one word, Money Talks, right? Drives me crazy.
Well, it's like where's the apostrophe?
Yeah, exactly. Same thing. And Hold Me Back, I totally agree with everything you said there as well. There's no beat to it. It's just like timekeeping kind of thing. And, AC/DC kind of is a timekeeping band, but they also have a huge beat as well. So, all right. So my side 2 of this album, we're calling Back in Beige. Sorry. I'm going to start with the Blow Up Your Video album, which I've always had it in for. I do not like the production of this record. I find the songs to be fairly forced, but that's the way I want to rock and roll. I'm actually going to do I think my next podcast episode is going to be about bands with bad song titles. And I might include AC/DC in that, because a lot of them just drive me up the wall, but that's one. That's the way I wanna rock and roll. I don't like the wanna. I don't like the lack of apostrophes in the rock and roll, and I just don't like the whole sentiment and the lyrics of the thing. It's kind of like this dopey sort of southern rock riff to it. Just not a big fan. Then I'm gonna go with "Cover You in Oil" from Ballbreaker. So there we go.
Yeah, sorry, I got the wrong album. Yeah.
Yeah, this is another one that I have it a little bit in for. I like it more than Stiff Upper Lip, but the one thing the thing I don't like about this song, and I remember just putting a comment on some song in the new Def Leppard album, line dancing. It sounds like a line dancing song to me, that whole country line dancing thing. It's just this kind of, again, this dopey sort of riff. It's got this uninspired kind of pre-chorus to it. The chorus isn't great either. The verses ain't great, and it's one of these a lot of AC/DC songs just repeat the title in the chorus, but this one does too. There's just no real parts of this song that I think are really any good for an AC/DC song. Then I'm gonna go to Rock or Bust for all three of my last ones. This is the album, Tim. You hit the nail on the head. Something about this album just rubbed me the wrong way from the start, whether it's the distorted hi-hat and cymbals on it, like just the whole thing sounds a little crackly. But the main thing is I just don't like the songs. I loved Black Ice, and Power Up is good too. I've got no songs from that. But this record, it's almost like with this band, and especially in the Brian era, sometimes they paint themselves into a corner with saying, we just do these really sort of restricted range of AC/DC type songs. So when you have this sort of range, sometimes when you're ticking off the boxes of types of songs in that range, you come up with something that sounds forced or uninspired, and it's just not good. So I started with Rock or Bust because of the bad memories of seeing them on the Grammys doing that song, and it just didn't kind of go over to me. I just find the riff kind of like Brown and Beige. Here we are back in Beige. It's got just this thing where it sounds like they're kind of trying to work out a simple algebra problem or something, right? It just sounds like really remedial math rock. And then Misadventure is kind of the same thing. Geometric, kind of like this sour, difficult riff. Just don't like it. Again, the bad production bothers me on that. It's kind of the same complaint that I have with That's the Way I Want to Rock and Roll. It's the same kind of song. And Give Me Some Rock and Roll Thunder. Again, we're back to the line dancing feel. Just this relaxed sort of country western kind of new country trying to be heavy sort of sound. And just really hate that title. Got Some Rock and Roll Thunder. So rock and roll, this time we've got an ampersand, so they can never standardize on these things, right? Got Some Rock and Roll Thunder. It's too long. It's a bunch of boring words all stuck together. It sounds like a Scorpions English as a second language sort of title. So yeah, I really wanted to make a statement about how disappointed I was with Rock or Bust. So there you go. I don't know if you got any comments on those ones, Tim.
I totally agree with Rock or Bust. I mean, again, I don't think there's much more we can add. Does anybody out there really like this album? And tell us why. Tell us what we're missing, because I don't hear much. As a fan, you bought it when it came out, and I thought Play Ball was all right.
Yes, me too.
I thought okay, but
and that's so annoying, isn't it? The whole advanced single syndrome, right? Where you're like enthused about it because of Play Ball. And then Play Ball turns out to be the best song on the album, right?
The bait and switch, Yeah, when the first single, I mean, okay, a record label or a band or together, they what's the song that's going to get people's attention? Maybe it is the best song on the album, but it shouldn't be far and away the best single on the album or the only good song on the album. And I think that's one of the cases with Rock or Bust. Cover You in Oil, I actually kind of like Ballbreaker better than the Razor's Edge. Definitely better than Stiff Upper Lip. That didn't strike me one way or the other. But I do want to talk about Blow Up Your Video.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind That's the Way I Want to Rock and Roll. I mean, that one and Heat Seeker, I mean, again, first two singles, first two songs on the album, pretty much the only decent songs on it. I didn't pick any songs from Blow Up Your Video because honestly, none of them stuck to me well enough for me to remember one way or another. But I do have a slightly funny story, Martin. Just last year, I almost bought Blow Up Your Video twice by mistake. And I'll tell you why. I was at a record expo. It's not easy to find the original Atlantic vinyl anymore. Usually what you get are the Sony reissues. So I saw something, I picked it up, handed it to the guy, he handed it back. I gave him money. We're making the transaction. And then all of a sudden I go, oh, wait a minute. That's not what I thought it was. I'll get another record. I thought it was buying Who Made Who, which I still don't have on vinyl. Because Martin, look at this. Look at these.
Right, yeah.
They both got blue in them. They've just got Angus front and center.
I never noticed that before. Yeah.
So yeah, I thought I was buying it. I was like, I've already got this. I'm certainly not going to buy it again. And these are one right after the other, 86, 88. It's almost like not only could they not come up with a good title, they're like, oh, the cover. What did we do last time? Just do that, but have him come out of a TV. These are like they've had the same album cover, like Angus in some sort of pose, right? But these are the worst for just looking completely. For a new fan, it would be awful easy to say, which one of those do I have? Do I have them both? Do I have neither of them?
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was a funny story because I laughed. And I said, no, I guess I've already got that one. I thought that was Who Made Who.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, a lot of great stuff with Brian. And I agree with you. Like AC/DC, I like when they, we love AC/DC because they've never done a power ballad. They've never strayed from their sound, their vision or whatever. But I like it when they stretch out a little bit. I think that's one of the reasons why I like Flick of the Switch so much. I think there's some interesting stuff on there. Like when they're at their best, they're pushing to the absolute limits of what they can do. And it's usually really interesting and really catchy. And you get hooks out of that. You get drum hooks, you get guitar hooks. And, when they do those simple, really, really simple songs, it's too stripped back, right? And also Rock or Bust, yeah, it's interesting with that album. You talk about how, and I think Black Ice suffers for this too. And I don't know if it's Brendan O'Brien or the way it's produced. It's not as heavy as it should be because sometimes you hear the strumming more than you hear the actual distortion. And that's a production decision that I don't know. I think they got it a little bit better with Power Up. Again, when you like an album and you're behind it, Power Up was such a nice surprise. But I actually really do still. I've listened to it not long ago. I still think that's a pretty strong album all the way through. But yeah, there you go. That's AC/DC in the Brian era.
Excellent. Yes. So there you go. Back in Beige. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. If you're feeling ambitious, give us your whole 10-track album. It'd be interesting to see some of these and see what other songs get in for some sticks, so to speak. But yeah, and you can like and subscribe and all that stuff. Join our Patreon situation. We do a lot of doing that, basically becoming a Patreon. You can get onto our panels. We're doing those all the time, where we're going through albums and Nick and Marco always come up with some cool concepts. Besides, there you go. Back in Beige. We'll see you again next time.